Hello students, today we're starting chapter 8, and chapter 8 is all about exponents and working with exponents and dealing with exponents. And section 1 is, exponent properties with products. Lots of alliteration today. So we're going to look at several properties, actually three different properties of dealing with exponents in multiplication, and I want you to see if you can come up with a rule for solving these types of problems. The first property that we're going to look at is the property of powers. The product of powers property. The product of powers property. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples. What if I had 4 to the third times 4 to the fifth? Now 4 to the third is 4 times 4 times 4. And we're going to multiply that by 4 to the fifth, which is 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. And when I do all of that, at this point I'm not asking you for an answer of all of these, I just want you to simplify the expression. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 to the 8th power. Is there a way that I could solve this without having to write out all of those 4s? That's what you're going to tell me. The second problem is negative 3 times negative 3 to the 4th power. How might we solve this one or simplify this one? Well, I have negative 3, and I'm multiplying it by negative 3 to the 4th power, which would be negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. So I've got negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3, and you know, when you simplify that, you get negative 3 to the 5th power. So I wonder if you can come up with a rule that helps me to solve this a little more quickly than having to write all of these products out. There's a couple of vocabulary words that I need you to know. One of them you already know. This is called an exponent. The number that has the exponent is called the base. And it's very important that you realize or know that this is a base and this is an exponent, because you're going to need to use those words when you come up with your rule. So we've got a base exponent, base exponent, base exponent, base exponent, hint, hint, base exponent, base exponent. So think about this. What do you think the rule might be? The next property we're going to look at is called the power of a power property. So we're going to look at how we would solve powers of powers. So the first example is going to be 7 to the third raised to the 5th power. Okay, 7 to the third raised to the 5th power. So let's write that out. 7 to the third times 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 7 to the third. Based on the first property that we looked at just a second ago, I wonder how we could solve this one without having to write out 7 times 7 times 7 all the way through. Okay, but I'll go ahead and tell you that this equals 7 to the 15th. So can you come up with a rule? Well, let's look at one more example before we try to come up with a rule. What about x to the 7th power squared? What would that equal? So x to the 7th power squared would be x to the 7th times x to the 7th, and then I would write out x 7 times and x 7 more times, and that would give me x to the 14th. So I wonder if you could come up with a rule for solving a power of a power. Now, why is this called a power of a power? Because I have a power, the 5th power, of a power, the 3rd power. That's why it's called the power of a power. So think about this rule, and we're going to discuss it tomorrow when you come into class. I'm not going to ask you for the rule to turn in, but I want you to think about it and maybe jot some notes down, because we are going to come up with those rules in class tomorrow. The third property we're going to discuss in this whole exponent properties with products is the power of a product. The power of a product. So what does it look like? Well, let's say I have 4 times 32 to the third power. So how would I deal with this? Well, if I'm going to do this to the third power, then it's going to be 4 times 32 times 4 times 32 times 4 times 32, which would be the same as 4 to the third times 32 to the third. So I wonder if you could come up with a rule to tell us how to solve the power of a product. Now, why is it called the power of a product? Because we have a power right here of this product, and it's product because we're using multiplication. Let's look at another example. Let's do 7xy squared. Well, how would I deal with this one? How would I simplify this? Well, 7xy times 7xy is the same as 7 squared x squared y squared. Or you could go ahead and say 49x squared y squared. So I wonder if you could come up with perhaps a rule for solving the power of a product. Going through this. So tomorrow when you come to class, we're going to look at all 3 of these properties, and we're going to quickly come up with a rule for solving each one, and then we'll write that down. Now, you've probably already come up with all of them because you're intelligent like that, but let's just solidify those in class tomorrow. Now, for your practice problems, what I'd like for you to do is to solve these 1, 2, and 3. 1 deals with the first property, which was the product of powers. 2 deals with the second property, which is the power of a power. And 3 deals with the third property, which is the power of a product. Now the fourth one combines all of them. So solve these in your composition book, take a picture of them, and then submit them using the turn-in button in Edmodo so I can see what we need to do in class tomorrow. And as you're going through this, continue to think about those rules that we're going to talk in class tomorrow.